I always thought I had it all: a beautiful wife, a cozy home, and a newborn baby who was the center of our world. My wife, Gina, was the kind of woman who turned heads wherever she went. She had this magnetic charm, and I felt like the luckiest man alive when she said "I do" 5 years ago. But little did I know, our perfect life was about to come crashing down. It all started when our son Jake was born. Gina and I were over the moon. We spent sleepless nights taking turns rocking him to sleep, changing diapers, and singing lullabies. But as the weeks went by, I noticed something was off. Gina started spending more time with our neighbor, Mark. At first, I didn't think much of it. Mark was a single guy in his early 30s, and he'd always been friendly. He'd often come over to help with the baby, offering to watch Jake so Gina could catch up on sleep. I thought it was kind of him, but deep down, a tiny voice in my head kept whispering, "Something's not right." One evening, I came home from work early, hoping to surprise Gina with dinner. But when I walked into the house, it was eerily quiet. I called out her name, but there was no response. I checked the nursery, and Jake was sleeping peacefully in his crib, but Gina was nowhere to be found. I texted her, and she replied a few minutes later, saying she had gone to the grocery store. Something about her response felt off. The grocery store was only a 5-minute drive away, and she had been gone for over an hour. I tried to shake off the feeling, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing little things. Gina spending more time on her phone, whispering in hushed tones, and making excuses to leave the house. One night, after putting Jake to bed, I sat down with Gina and tried to talk to her. I asked her if everything was okay, if she was feeling overwhelmed with the baby. She brushed me off, saying she was just tired and needed some time to herself. But her words didn't sit right with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. That's when I came up with the idea of installing a hidden camera in the nursery. I told myself it was to capture precious moments with Jake, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. I needed to know what was really going on when I wasn't around. I bought a small, discreet camera online and set it up in the corner of the nursery, hidden behind a stuffed animal. The first few days, the camera captured nothing out of the ordinary, just Gina feeding Jake, playing with him, and singing him to sleep. But then, one afternoon, I checked the footage while at work, and my heart stopped. There was Mark, sitting on the nursery floor with Gina. At first, it seemed innocent enough. They were talking and laughing while Jake played with his toys. But then, I saw it. Mark leaned in and kissed her, and she didn't pull away. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I replayed the footage over and over, hoping I'd misread the situation, but there was no denying it. Gina was cheating on me with Mark. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking as I closed the app and tried to process what I'd just seen. That evening, I confronted Gina. I didn't want to accuse her outright, so I started by asking her about Mark. I asked her why he was spending so much time at our house, why she seemed so close to him. She got defensive immediately, saying I was being paranoid and that Mark was just a friend. But I could see the guilt in her eyes. I decided to push further. I told her I knew something was going on between her and Mark, and I wanted the truth. She denied it at first, but when I mentioned the hidden camera, her face went pale. She tried to explain, saying it was just a moment of weakness, that it didn't mean anything. But I wasn't buying it. Over the next few days, Gina and I had several heated arguments. She finally admitted that she and Mark had been seeing each other for months. She said it started innocently enough. He was there for her when I was busy with work, and one thing led to another. She claimed she never meant to hurt me, but the damage was done. I was devastated. The woman I loved, the mother of my child, had betrayed me in the worst way possible. I didn't know how to move forward. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to try to work things out for Jake's sake, but another part of me couldn't get past the betrayal. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I found out the truth about Jake. Gina had been acting strange whenever I brought up paternity tests, so I decided to get one done in secret. When the results came back, my worst fears were confirmed. Jake wasn't my biological son. Mark was his father. I felt like my whole world had been ripped apart. Not only had Gina cheated on me, but she had also lied to me about Jake's paternity. I didn't know how to process it. I loved Jake with all my heart, but knowing he wasn't mine made me question everything. I couldn't keep the truth to myself any longer. I decided to expose Gina's betrayal in the most public way possible. I invited our families over for a dinner under the guise of celebrating Jake's first birthday, but instead of a celebration, I had a bombshell to drop. As everyone gathered around the table, I stood up and announced that I had something important to share. I pulled out my laptop and connected it to the TV. Gina's face turned white as I played the footage from the hidden camera. The room fell silent as everyone watched Gina and Mark's betrayal unfold on screen. Gina tried to explain, but there was no coming back from this. Our families were in shock, and the room was filled with tension. I told them everything about the affair, the lies, and the paternity test. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I needed them to know the truth. The fallout was brutal. Gina and I separated, and she moved in with Mark. I fought for custody of Jake, but in the end, I knew it was better for him to be with his biological father. It broke my heart to let him go, but I couldn't bear to raise him knowing the truth. It's been a year since everything fell apart, and I'm still picking up the pieces. I've learned a lot about trust, betrayal, and the importance of communication in a relationship. I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully trust someone again, but I'm trying to move forward, one day at a time. As I sit here explaining this, I can't help but think about how different my life is now. I've started therapy to work through the pain, and I'm slowly rebuilding my life. I've even started dating again, though it's been hard to open up to someone new. But through it all, I've learned one important lesson. Life is unpredictable, and sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But no matter how hard it gets, we have to keep moving forward, because at the end of the day, the only person we can truly rely on is ourselves.